I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. Come to the table, cup runneth over. Come drink your fill and be well.
Hello, and thank you for joining me. My name is Christy. I love the Lord and I love His Word. I've been seeking answers to many questions for as long as I can remember. Who are the Nephilim? Who are these giants of old and the men of renown? I started digging for truth and found myself looking for answers in the Bible, the Book of Enoch and Jasher, just to name a few. Wow, I found my answers. I now know who they were and who they are. These were living hybrids of the fallen angels, half human and half fallen angel. But how? I thought they died in the flood. That's what I was taught in Bible study at my local church. But they are clearly still around. How could this be? The sons of God were spoken of in Genesis 6. It talks about how the fallen angels, or as Tim Alberino calls them, the elder race. And this elder race engaged in unnatural union with human women, resulting in the children called the giants. These giant clans had grown in numbers and in tribes such as the Nephilim, the Anakim, the Emim, the Rephaim, and the Zamzummim. The creation of the Nephilim in Genesis 6, right before the flood, is a story that surprises most people today, no matter how long they've been a Christian. We just haven't heard too many messages in church about the time that spiritual beings, the sons of God, had sex with human women and gave rise to a race of giants on the earth, even though it's right there in black and white within the pages of the Bible. I was also surprised when my eyes were opened to find right there in the Bible that it stated that the giants were present after the flood. This is clearly seen in Numbers 13 when Moses sends spies into the land of Canaan and they return with a report of having seen giants. Numbers 13:32 through 33. The land through which we have gone to spy it out is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people that we saw in it are of great height. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come from the Nephilim, and we seemed to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seemed to them. Did you hear that? We looked like grasshopper compared to the size of these giants. Picture that for a moment. What's interesting to note here is that the Nephilim that these spies saw went by another name, the sons of Anak, known elsewhere in the Bible as the Anakim. This is important to note because we typically have nothing in mind when we read the names of people or groups in the Bible, and so we don't stop and imagine them in detail. But here we learn that whenever we see the word Nephilim or Anakim in the Bible, we should now be thinking of the descendants of the giants of Genesis 6 and a direct bloodline to the different races of the elder race, the fallen angels. Yes, the giants have now been around long enough to take on different names. In this case, a giant named Anak has gained enough attention that his giant descendants are now a people or tribe known as the Anakim. But other names for the giants will come about as well, because different nations had different names for the Nephilim. For example, Deuteronomy 2 tells us that there are other groups of giants who are known by other nations as the Emim, the Rephaim, and the Zamzummim. We also see the Amorites described by the prophet Amos as having the height of cedars, showing us that some of the Amorites were also known as giants. However, we know that not all the Amorites were giants because of the fuller picture the Bible paints of them. In a similar way, the Bible also seems to tell us that a few giants were dispersed throughout the human clans of the Amalekites, Hittites, Jebusites, Canaanites, and Philistines. And so now, our list of giant clans has grown to the Nephilim, the Anakim, the Emim, the Rephaim, and the Zamzummim. We also expect to see a few of the giants living amidst the Amorites, the Amalekites, the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Canaanites, and the Philistines. They just seem to be everywhere. It's strange that we should miss all of this because these giants are standing right in Israel's way, for they inhabit the land that God promised that His people would move into, and perhaps with this in mind we might speculate that God specifically sent Israel to this land so that they would finish the job of what the flood was partially meant to do, and that was to get rid of the giants. In fact, a very close reading of the Bible seems to relay that if there were no giants in specific parts of the promised land, then the inhabitants could be simply driven out and not necessarily killed in war. Yes, believe it or not, it seems possible that the holy wars of the Old Testament were set in place to eradicate the rebellious hybrid beings that were wreaking havoc on all those they encountered. There are a few giants mentioned by name throughout the Bible. Since we've already noted that the sons of Anak were giants, that means we can connect all the Anakim by name to the giants, including Anak's father Arba and Anak's descendants Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai. Deuteronomy 3 also speaks of King Og, a Rephaim that slept in a bed that was about 13.5 feet long by 2.5 feet wide, and because this passage connects Og to another king named Sihon, who was an Amorite, we are then able to come to the conclusion that Sihon was one of the giants within the human clan of the Amorites. The giants I just mentioned are found closer to the time of war over the Promised Land. But if you know the story, then you know that Israel didn't finish eradicating the giants. As Joshua 11:22 states, there was none of the Anakim left in the land of the people of Israel. Only in Gaza, in Gath, and in Ashdod did some remain. And so it's much later in the time of David in the land of Gath that we are introduced to the most renowned giant of all, Goliath. Based on various interpretations of the Bible, Goliath was 9 feet 9 inches. 1 Samuel 17:4 says that Goliath was 6 cubits and a span, and the notes in my Bible said that that is about 9 feet, 9 inches. A cubit is the length from your elbow to the end of your middle finger, about 18 inches. A span is the span of your hand. This may not sound like that much of a giant to us, but consider that there were other attributes to their ancestors were of the elder race, for goodness sake, the fallen angels. Angels are very powerful beings that have supernatural abilities. They are telepathic with the ability to go into your dreams, the ability to go in and out of this dimension, as well as transport us between dimensions in the heavens. They are able to shapeshift from an angel of light to looking like a human being. They have supernatural strength and abilities because they are made directly by God for His purpose. They were created to guard the throne of God. Some are protectors of humans, some are messengers, some are warriors. They all have their different jobs and assigned tasks, just as we do, but they function in the supernatural, a supernatural God science, if you will. So I would imagine the giants would inherit at least some of the traits of their ancestors, the fallen angels. What we do know is that Goliath was strong enough to wear a coat of armor that weighed 126 pounds and wield a spear that had a tip that weighed 15 pounds alone. He was a very intimidating opponent for sure, and a sight to behold. For many, Goliath is an odd story about an unusually tall man who came out of nowhere, but the Bible has been setting us up to see him in the light of the Nephilim. He is a descendant of the giants, still present on the earth well after the flood, and believe it or not, even he is not the last of the giants. In the time of David, Israel went on to fight more giants in the land of the Philistines. A giant named Ishbi-Benob, with a spear that weighed about half the amount of Goliath's, set out to kill David during a war. However, one of David's soldiers killed him first. In other wars, the Israelites struck down a giant named Saph or Sipai and Goliath's brother Lami, and finally, a 12-fingered, 12-toed giant was also struck down in one of these wars. In Genesis 6 it states, "And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. This elder race decided to mix seed with daughters of men and create a race of their own, as in the days of Noah. And after the flood they were still doing it, But the difference is they were no longer taking the woman in marriage. They wanted children and dominion over the earth and wanted to be worshipped like God. As long as their offspring have a trace of human in them, they have rights of inheritance to the earth as we do. At least that's how I believe they see it. Today we call these hybrid beings by many titles, just as we always have throughout history. Today we may refer to them as Nordics, the Galactic Federation, the Greys, and the list goes on and on. Bottom line is that they are still here and still wreaking havoc on humanity. They come with lies and are setting up the beast system from behind the scenes. In Matthew 24:24 it states, "For false Christs and false prophets will arise, and will do great miracles and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, the very elect should be deceived." In Isaiah 13:3 it states, "I give command, and I bring them. Giants are coming to fulfill my wrath, rejoicing at the same time and insulting. But we should not fear, for the Lord is our refuge." 1 John 4:4. "Little children, you are from God and have overcome them, for he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. And these beings are in fact from this world. They aren't from outer space or a neighboring planet. They live beneath the earth, under the oceans, and in motherships above us. There is a great deception coming. Please do not be fooled. There is nothing new under the sun, just new lies and deceptions from the enemy. The truth comes only from a relationship with the Lord and reading his word. We, the elect, have the Holy Spirit inside of us, and Yahushua will never leave us nor forsake us. Call on the name of the Lord, and he will respond. But we must be aware of our enemy's tactics. Hosea 4:6 states, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." If we are unaware of the tactics of the enemy, then we don't know how to fight, and some of us aren't even aware there is a fight. Be aware they are creating an army. We must be spiritually armed with the full armor of God. As it states in Ephesians 6:10-18, "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything to stand. Stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. And pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people. Please like and subscribe if you have not done so already. I will be going into this subject in much more detail in future videos. If you're interested in hearing more about these hybrids and what their agenda is today, or you would like to hear my stories of being abducted by these beings for the alien hybrid breeding programs, then please click on the link that is about to pop up on the screen and watch my Alien Abductee series. I just want to thank you for watching, and I hope this helps someone out there who doesn't understand what is happening to them and is seeking answers. Again, please like and subscribe so I can get this message out to as many people as possible. If you have an experience you would like to share, even if it is anonymously, I would love to share your story in one of my videos. God bless you.
I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. Come to the table.